The word legendary gets thrown around a lot in the automotive world, but sometimes, just sometimes, a car comes along that's so absolutely ridiculous, so patently insane, that it actually deserves that title. And in 1970, Plymouth created exactly that car, the Roadrunner Superbird. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another video about that crazy wing car. But hold on, because this isn't just about that massive rear spoiler that looks like it was stolen from a Boeing factory. No, this is about one of the most fascinating stories in American automotive history, where a bunch of engineers basically told physics to take a vacation and created a street-legal NASCAR weapon that was so ahead of its time, it's actually more aerodynamic than some modern supercars. Yes, really. The Superbird was Plymouth's answer to a problem that, honestly, only muscle car-crazed Americans in the 1970s would try to solve. How do we make a family car do 200 miles per hour? And boy oh boy did they come up with something special. But before we dive into this wild tale of aerodynamics and horsepower, let's cover some background on why Plymouth decided to strap a wing the size of a park bench to the back of their Roadrunner in the first place. You see, by 1969, NASCAR had become an all-out war between American manufacturers. Ford was dominating with their Torino Talladega, and Dodge had already fired back with their Charger Daytona. But Plymouth? They were getting absolutely destroyed on the high-speed ovals. And back then, the old saying, "win on Sunday, sell on Monday," wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was literally how these companies moved metal off dealer lots. So Plymouth decided to do something that was, frankly, certifiably insane. They took their Roadrunner, a car that was already pretty wild in its own right, and turned it into something that looked like it belonged in a Looney Tunes episode. But the crazy thing, every single bizarre-looking piece of this car was actually backed by serious engineering. Let's start with that nose cone. That massive, pointy front end wasn't just for show, though it definitely showed up in a big way. The engineers actually developed this thing in a wind tunnel, just like you'd expect from a modern supercar. And speaking of modern, get this. The Superbird's drag coefficient was 0.28, which is legitimately better than some supercars being built today. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this 1970s muscle car was genuinely cutting through the air better than cars being built 4 decades later. Now, we need to talk about that elephant in the room, or should I say, that Hemi in the room. Because while the base Superbird came with a 440 Super Commando V8, making 375 horsepower, which was nothing to sneeze at, the holy grail was the 426 Hemi. This wasn't just any engine, this was Plymouth's nuclear option, officially rated at 425 horsepower. But let's be real here, that number was quite highly underrated. In reality, these engines were pushing closer to 550 horses when they were really breathing. And this is where things get really interesting. Plymouth had to build these cars for the street to meet NASCAR's homologation rules. The rule book said they needed 1,920 cars built and sold to the public. Now, imagine walking into a Plymouth dealer in 1970 and seeing this thing sitting there. That massive wing wasn't just for show either. It was actually designed to be exactly that height so the trunk could still open. Talk about form-following function. But here's the part that really blows my mind. Dealers couldn't give these things away when they were new. I mean, think about it. You're trying to sell what looks like a road-going spaceship to people who just want a normal muscle car. Many Superbirds sat on dealer lots for months. Some even had their nose cones and wings removed just to make them look more normal. Can you imagine doing that today? That's like taking the doors off a Lamborghini because they open funny. Only 93 of these birds were built with the mighty Hemi engine, which makes them about as rare as finding someone who doesn't have an opinion about pineapple on pizza. The rest got either the 440 Super Commando or the 446 Pack. Both solid engines in their own right, but let's be honest. If you're buying a car this crazy, why not go all the way? On the track, this thing was an absolute monster. NASCAR drivers like Richard Petty were hitting speeds over 200 miles per hour, which in 1970 was just mind-bending. And they were doing this on bias-ply tires, which is kind of like trying to set a land speed record while wearing Crocs. It takes some serious courage. After dominating the 1970 season, NASCAR changed the rules for 1971. They basically said, hey, These aero cars are too fast, so we're going to restrict engine sizes for them. It was like bringing a knife to a gunfight, and just like that, the Superbird's racing career was over almost as quickly as it began. And those cars that dealers couldn't give away in 1970, they're now some of the most valuable muscle cars on the planet. We're talking serious money here, like sell your house and maybe one of your kids' money. A Hemi Superbird in good condition today will easily fetch over $1 million at auction. Just a few months back, one sold for $1.65 million. That's a pretty solid return on investment for something that originally stickered for around $4,300. Looking at it now, the Superbird represents everything that was great about the muscle car era. It was excessive, it was outrageous, and it was built for one purpose: to absolutely dominate NASCAR. The fact that they had to sell it to the public was just a happy accident that gave us one of the most iconic muscle cars ever made. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Superbird. Would you daily drive one of these if you could? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into some of the most fascinating cars ever built. Until next time, folks.